I'll be playing Ellie Dad. I'll have 15 body, 30 mind, and no armor.
So for Chuck Bentley, my diesel jock, he's going to have 20 body, 30 mind, and then for this, just make it round, I'm going to say he's 10 points of armor. So functionally 30 and 30.
We'll be playing as Coil Excalibur, 10 points of armor, 31 body, 40 mind.
Tesla, have a 10 body, 11 mind, and 5 armor.
Expree, body 21, armor 10, mind 35.
Playing Jidon, 30 body, no armor, 35 mind.
I'm Spade. I'll be playing with 20 body, 20 mind, and 10 armor.
I'm going to be playing Victory, and I'm going to be starting with 25 body and 30 mind.
Playing Briggs the Liar, 30 mind, 30 body. It'll be 10 armor today.
This is Scenario 1, an attrition fight. There are 5 NPCs and 7 PCs. We will be doing 3 waves of Shamblers. There will be 1 tank, 1 burster, and 3 Shamblers. After the tank goes down, the tank will be coming back in as a Shambler. So we will have 4 Shamblers and a burster for the second and third waves. This will go until the PCs defeat us or until we defeat the PCs. The goal of this is to see how the PCs handle an attrition fight and also how if they can take us out or if this is overwhelming. We had about half of the minimum recommended for this fight, but I think that it was a good balance for the number of PCs that we had. We had a tank, a burster, and 3 Shamblers, and then the tank, after popping once, came in as a Shambler. Comments, observations?
This was great.
Yeah,
that was way better.
it was really good, because like by the end of it, I was like hurting, like in character. I was starting to feel it, and I was like glad that no more came, It's always good when you're like, oh God, we made it through, sort of feeling,
There were a couple of good scary moments, but we didn't wipe out or anything. I forgot to take my stun after Call the Almighty. I forgot that's a new thing. Should have been stuck for 10 seconds after that.
Landing the skills as a tank, I really felt was a few good moments of scariness for the PCs, landing the 30 body and the break armor and then the break shield right in the beginning.
The break armor stuff.
I didn't know if I was supposed to call no effect when shot by a gun, so I just said no effect. And that made it very obvious to the gunners to stop shooting me.
Yeah, I mean, we will make that, we will have to determine how we handle that in our chapter, whether you just don't take damage so that it's unsure to the PCs, or whether you actually call that because it's a visible lack of effect on them.
Yes.
And that's kind of the determination that we will have to make as a chapter, I think, whether that's kind of the standard to call that or not.
Yeah, because I think taking minimal damage as a Zed, you're still taking 1 and you don't need to call it, but if you're taking no damage at all, I think it would be important to state nothing is happening, so the PCs know to just stop.
So in that scenario, you were taking no damage whatsoever, not
From
minimal.
guns, none.
Okay.
Yep.
And I got shot a good 12 times and nothing happened.
I think having a no effect call or something is going to be better for new players and stuff.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have people yelling at new players for shooting at tanks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of people called a defense against takedown.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel? Was that just like an automatic response from your previous experience?
It was.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's an expensive call with mine being what it is. So I'm just curious to hear notes about that.
Yeah, no, it was kind of like
A lot of it was reflex for me.
reflex, same.
Yeah, I'm used to not being able to take 10 seconds of being down without it putting me into bleed out.
Yeah, same.
For me, it was a conscious thing, but my character is an absolute and utter coward, so she's trying to avoid a lot of the stuff, so anything that could kill her, she's going to spend the mine on.
There was definitely some parry, avoid, some confusion about what I should be calling, but that'll get worked out in time.
I think it's balance for takedown.
Yeah, balance for takedowns.
Yeah.
Can I just say I really did like the Zed kept going even when you were down. Like if you got taken down, they didn't I don't know. It's been my experience in 2.0 that they move on to the next target because you're down now. But now they're like, okay, now we can kill you super good, which was really scary.
Yeah, and they would move on once they started getting hit by something else, but not before that.
Right. Yeah. So you really do have to be like, guys, Help!
I wasn't sure if there was a gnaw skill, or because I wasn't told there was a gnaw, so I just take down and then started swinging, rather than stopping and
I think that's how you
gnawing.
should do it.
That was good though. Like I almost died because I got taken down.
Took him down.
Yeah, took him down. And then they just kept wailing on me. And I got down to like 4 body. So
As a clarification, by the way, the counter to take down is either avoid or balance. Balance has other effects, but avoid can avoid any melee strike.
Okay. Last playtest I was being told it was
just
only.
Yep, and that's just looked it up specifically because of that, but it is avoid or balance. They cost the same. The difference is balance can prevent other things that avoid can't.
Like
buy my voice takedown, that sort of stuff.
And does takedown have to be a successful melee strike?
To the torso.
Okay.
A successful melee or a successful melee strike to the torso for takedown. Takedown.
Something I noticed.
But the arm doesn't do it?
Nope.
Something
It's like blindness, so all effects now, it looks like, are torso-based. You have to hit the torso
Other than, like,
to do, except for like mangles and breaks, which you have to hit the thing that you're breaking.
I probably hit at least one leg then incorrectly. Yeah.
Something I noticed is that as a shambler, PCs would keep swarming me, like in 2-0, but that made it immensely easy for me to hit takedown,
Yeah.
because of how close they got.
I like the fact that it is in the way that it's going to be in 3.0. It is a good idea and a recommended idea to swarm even basic shamblers instead of just being like, I'm one person, I'm going to fight these like 5 shamblers by myself. And
Well, the other thing that I did notice when I did end up getting close to shamblers and other things is that exact thing. Well, not necessarily even the skill use, but like if I got too close, they were spinning a lot more than they used to. Like, and just going right at you, and it's like, wow, it is really hard with my standard size weapons to deal with this.
This is why you should fight with smalls, says the Bagazian who only fights with smalls.
Shamblers are also a lot tougher, because before they'd go down to like 3 hits, so...
Which is making me actually consider getting a small and doing flow with a small and a standard, because apparently that's what the proficient Florentine weapons and whatnot are going to be your smalls.
So in that regard, since this is our first playtest with actual, from national threat stats, how do we feel about the way the Zed were leveled in terms of how long it took to bring them down?
I feel like
3 people swarming 1 Zed felt good.
Yeah.
For this encounter, I think it was fine.
Yeah.
Like a wave, it felt like a completely different fight for a wave of one group versus scattered ones coming in. I don't know about others, but on the Zed side, even when there were 2 of us, it kind of felt like going to work rather than it being a fight at that point. Like with the first wave coming in, that was the conflict, and everything else was just waiting until it was over. I don't know how entertaining I think I would find it on the other end to have, okay, we've got another 2 coming in. Okay, there's another 2 coming in.
It gives us the opportunity to be like, we need to address the small threats before they become big threats. It's a really big tactical decision for me, at least. Whenever I saw 1 or 2 coming in, I was like, I need to get those now, otherwise they're going to become 5 or 6. And I like that sort of thing.
And I also kind of like just having, the first big wave, feeling like the conflict is really cool. But I also did like having 2 come in because that kind of, in a larger setting when we have our full town of like however many, it'll be like, okay, you 10 go handle that. We have 4 wounded. Let's get these people out of here. It feels like we can start to. If we remember that we don't have to be focusing on yelling our numbers anymore, we can start dividing people like
and
that.
The people who aren't major combatants can go and engage with those smaller groups, while the big fighters are like, there's a tank over there, and we're all gonna die.
And we actually did that. We divided and conquered. We said the 2 of us and X were over there dealing with the tank, and it was pretty efficient.
So I feel like when the NPC side has more bodies, it probably will create a more consistent flow.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is cool about like having waves is it feels more like a horde. It feels like, when is this going to end? Will we get through it?
And the other thing to keep in mind is that if you had even a basic traditional horde, there would have been 10 at the very minimum. So, you would still have them kind of trickling in, but I think you would have them coming in as 2s and 3s instead of coming back in as 1.
That's the question, is how many consists of the respawns?
Usually,
because if it's a respawn of 1 or 2 in any scenario, or more specifically, 1 or 2 versus 3 people.
Whenever I know as it stands right now in 2.0, whenever I'm running mods that are shambling hordes and whatever, I don't ever have people come in as 1s or 2s. I'm like, wait until you've got like at least 3 or 4 or more before you come back in and come in as a group, because that's just how I do it right now. It's probably not going to change that much in 3.0 as far as wanting them to come in groups.
I think that changes the dynamic ridiculously.
And I think that's going to be just like it is now. That'll be a judgment call for the marshal is how to make that a threat, because that's not the size recommended sizes and compositions for various threat levels. There is some outlines for that, but how you choose to spawn them is going to be up to the guy that's running the conflict and what they think is going to make the best threat, the best challenge, and the best story.
So I do think with how the Zed are much like tougher and stuff, and the fact that a single Zed, if you send them out, like it's not going to have the same effect as a wave, but they're not going to melt immediately. I think that does give it'll give the guide side more tools to, like you can use both. I think to say like you can either group up your waves or you can say just hey go out in 1s, like just keep that pressure on kind of thing.
It also means we have to continue our communication. Like there were times where it's like, oh yeah, like Ellie and someone else are over there fighting the Shambler, but there are others coming in from the other direction because they're not paying attention. I have to tell them, hey, behind you, like pay attention.
And as much as they were trickling, there was still good pressure because like I know my health is getting low near the end and I was like, I can't handle much more of this. So, like if more keep coming, we're gonna die. So it felt like an attrition fight in that regard. So I think it
did.
Yeah.
I think Zed being tougher gives you the ability to choose one of those modes and actually have it be different.
Well, and the other thing that I think, well, from my personal experience with playing Shamblers in like 2.0, it's like it kind of feels like, okay, I'm just going to go over there and get hit and die. I'm not going to do anything. With Shamblers now, it feels like it could be an actual threat. Like I could actually be doing something to like interact with the PCs rather than just forcing them to kill me.
I have a question actually for folk, just when it comes to my instinct versus what'll change on here. With 20 body, it feels a lot more doable for zombies to just walk into a weapon in order to hit someone.
Yeah.
Totally. So you've got a two-hander, you've got a couple of long, I don't care, I'm okay walking straight towards you to get into short range.
Yeah, as long as you're still doing it
I think that
safely.
actually fits the narrative of zombies more, that they don't really care about the damage they take. They're just going to come in until they can hit you, and they may then go down, but there's going to be more behind them. And I think that actually gives that narrative of just kind of an endless, like, unstoppable horde, as long as you're
not charging or pushing on shields.
Yep.
Yeah.
So is takedown now an ability of basic Zed?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I like that addition.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it's terrible.
Because it creates that idea of like they're pushing you into the horde and
makes
like
them scary.
all ganging on you.
Yeah.
It's good.
I think it simulates that like zombie jumping on you and rushing you to the ground.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
Someone like
idea.
trips and they're like, no.
Yeah, I figured it was like the thing where the horde like goes into the people and just kind of
It just like throws itself.
Yeah.
No more snipe shot, concentrated fire, your weapon.
No more long, dumb gun calls.
I mean, I didn't mind it. It was just that it was really hard to actually get something to be affected by one of those. Like, I think I've maybe destroyed one weapon the whole time I've been a gunslinger.
So now with things being more silent, it would be more viable. But getting someone to hear and understand and recognize that they are the target of this long call was like so hard.
Yeah, the only time I ever did it was up from the balcony and dead stop on a raider. And I was like, Miguel, snipe shot.
So that will be put into like weapon calls.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have a special gun that will allow you to do this with proficient, like say proficient or master.
It just didn't used to be particularly viable.
Firearms.
Yeah, no, because like I've definitely seen it with other people playing snipers before too.
So just to clarify, break, you can also hit the arm holding the item, but you have to call what you're breaking. So if you call break weapon, even if they're holding a sword and you hit their arm, that is a successful break.
Oh, cool. But not if you
With
hit
guns.
their shield arm. So you gotta be careful.
Yeah, if you go break weapon and hit their shield arm, then
Right.
it sucks to be
Yeah,
you, I
so
guess.
you first thing.
But
How'd
the
you do
clarification
that?
is it's not just guns.
Oh,
So if you have a standard and I hit your arm holding that
Okay.
standard and call break weapon, you still take that break weapon. It's the arm or the prop.
Good to know.
Is it still hand? If you hit the hand?
Hands are not legal targets.
Okay, I didn't think so. I just wanted to like clarify.
But if it hits the weapon
Gotcha.
anywhere else, or it hits you in the arm,
yeah, so
that's
like
holding
even
that
if you like
item,
go to
then
try to
it's-
block it and it hits the bottom part of the weapon, it still counts.
Yeah, if I get caught here.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yep.
it'll break.
Any other comments before we move on to the next
Yeah.
scenario?
This fight feels like it would be radically easier at 11:45 on Friday or 11:45 on Sunday. I feel as though there's a level of, honestly, I think that there's going to be a huge variation based on the time of day during the weekend on a fight like this. Because if you are paranoid that you're not going to have any points for the 12s, you're just going to go all out with your proficient or mastery level weapons and all of your high-end abilities and just drain yourself dry. In comparison, at 12:15 on a Friday night, there's not going to be anything used.
Yeah, but it's part of the fun.
I agree.
You know, it's part of the fun to blow all your skills.
I mean, you're gonna be making these decisions anyways. You know,
it changes scaling though in my mind, or it can have a direct impact on scaling for fights. If the case is that it's an 11:30 fight on a Friday night versus a 12:30 fight on a Friday night, those two fights in my mind are completely different scale levels potentially, depending on how much mind people will have at those times. There's going to be a lot more willingness to just go all out.
That's also something that we try to take into account when we're sending out fights in ops already. We're like, okay, it's after the 12s, so they've got a bunch of mind, or it's right before the 12s, so they're not even going to care if they have to use a million parries in this fight.
And there's avoids.
Avoid, yeah. Well, right now it's parries. Thank you.
But yeah, also, like those are the kind of decisions, like kind of like triage decisions that people make already, and on an individual level, like we think about like, oh, well, I'm about to go on my NPC shift, so I'll blow my mind, or I'm about to go to bed, you know, and then I won't be up in the morning, or there was another scenario and I forgot what it was, but like people, oh, I'm about to switch characters, so I'm gonna blow my mind before I go. Like that's cool. Like if you can do that, great. Any of those things. Like the things that we say, I'm gonna blow my mind, really, like you're blowing everyone else's mind too, like while you do it, because it's like, yeah, all of a sudden I'm super powerful, or I'm gonna use the thing that costs 10 or 15 mind points or 20 to spend right now because I'm gonna go switch characters in half an hour anyways. So, and each of those things is like really like a game changer. Like right now in 2.0, like things like takedown, blinding, those are like standard combat tactics. In 3.0, those become game changers, or even just like spending 5 mind points to spend, you know, to get 10 hits on your next strike. Like 10 points of damage is pretty significant against a shambler. So like that like changes the like it may like end the combat quicker, or it may just be like a total game changer like in that moment. So with
a shooter, it's a one shot on most things when you pump it up like that.
And on like master combat tactics, for example, expensive to do for one person, but if they doing that kind of like mental politics, like the mathematical politics in their own head of like what's the right strategy decision to do right now, and what will benefit us in the immediate area, and I don't have to worry about something long term, or like do I need to save those 20 mind points to do something else later? So
I think a similar thing will happen with Resolve.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. It's going to be an attrition game, and I think that's going to help it feel more survival horror. So I don't know. I think it'll be okay.
It's almost like this was discussed as one of the
the themes.
Themes of the game.
Any
But also like kind of like the philosophy behind changing the rules the way they are. This is something that has been discussed both on the regular forums and also I think in the blog too.
So you're telling me that this whole time I could have been using my print points, I mean my mind points in combat?
Yes, Wilson.
Why would I do that?
Why would I ever use parry, Wilson?
Awesome. Okay, I think we're going to call the discussion here, and we're going to set up for our next scenario.
Awesome.
Cool.
This is scenario 2. We have 6 PCs, 5 raiders, a warlord, 2 deadeyes, 2 berserkers. We are doing 2 pops. Scenario 2, roundtable discussion. We had 5 raiders, 6 PCs. All of the PCs were defeated by the raiders. This was definitely a hard and high-level fight. for this type of scale, we would probably not have put in the larger raiders. It may have made a difference. Definitely a heavy fight, especially with fewer guns on the PC side. Opening it up for roundtable comments, observations, discussions from people.
This is my first time in the silent combat system, and I think I underestimated my body total. It was really difficult for me to keep track of, but especially when there were multiple raiders on me at the same time. It did feel a lot more tense though, especially considering I was like, okay, I have to get, at minute 3, I have to start being first aided or it's done.
We really need to get used to the fact that we can actively communicate instead of having to focus on calling our numbers all the time.
Yeah.
One thing to note too is I went down super early, not because my character went down. My character was fine, but I realized I needed to step out to stretch, and that might have actually helped if we had more numbers and I hadn't dropped out early. So that'll skew the data a little bit.
Crawling and bleed out. I managed to save Tissue's character because she managed to crawl and bleed out as I swung around and successfully did my 2-minute first aid. If I had a crash kit, it would have gone considerably better because the fight ended after I finished my first aid and I was surrounded by raiders.
So a big thing on my part, it sounds like I was shot like 6 times. I only thought I was shot 3 times. Anything that was hit on, it's really tough. I think with packets it would be easier for me to tell, but especially with darts, if I'm not seeing it from behind or if it hits my shield and I'm not watching, really tough to necessarily know that you're being shot with a dart.
Yeah,
I didn't see or feel myself getting shot, so if you shot me, I apologize.
No, I think it's important just to note, that's going to be a very different story, recognizing you've been shot, especially since, all the damage feels like it comes from shots.
Yeah.
Anything that's I could have lasted forever if it were just being hit until I got mangled, but
especially if you're being shot while being hit by melee weapons, you're not even going to notice with darts.
Yeah, and also mangling people from behind is what really neutralized. I mangled both the limbs on a Deadeye, and I mangled Kylie's Raider, and that made them. The reason why I was able to finish that first aid is because I mangled their limbs.
Yeah. But so the thing about the guns, once again, and not knowing you've been shot, it was already a problem with the vocal version of it anyway, because people wouldn't notice they've been shot.
Yeah.
Perhaps there could be some sort of maybe a bang or some way that we can notify people that they've been shot.
We could also get in the habit of when we recognize ourselves being hit, in melee, maybe not saying got it every time, but taken on bullets.
Or even role playing when you get hit by something, so that people know that you've been that they've actually hit you.
I tend to be much better about that when I'm a Zed. I tend to when I start getting lower, I start swaying.
I'm
more.
better at it when I'm in game as opposed to in combat practice.
Yep.
I'm not role playing as hard here.
But all the things with the merchant will help. Costuming, makeup.
I think also saying Taken, especially during CBC with skill calls, I think would be important. If you land a blinding, Taken would be good.
Yeah.
But that's specifically for CBC.
Those raiders had a lot of body. It made me sad.
Yeah.
So those are standard body for threats right now, which is one of the things that we're testing. One of them was so they don't do them by ranks per se anymore, but one of them was the highest threat. The one I was playing was the highest threat.
Yeah.
So we may scale down some on other scenarios just to see how those play out.
With how many PCs we had, that was a lot.
Yeah, and I think having you around was kind of what threw it over, honestly, because the 2 shields and the 2 guns would have been a challenging enough threat as it was, but having a skirmisher thrown in there too made it pretty rough.
Yep.
Ryan's got a comment.
Yeah, there was also kind of an imbalance between the guns and the melee, because Sarah's just beating up on me and I have so much body. I just stood there, tanked all the damage while I was reloading, and it was a little bit silly.
Shields may be less relevant if you can last forever too. In the prior edition, you wanted a shield because 6 hits and you could be taken down. But on this, that's not as much an issue.
Yeah. I will point out gun shield combo is really strong, especially in the current thing. If one of those Deadeyes had a shield also, I would have been well, I guess everything sucks forever.
Yeah.
Reloading.
I don't even know what to do.
Though reloading with a shield is kind of hard unless you're reloading with a magazine, I guess.
He was really
Or you,
that's fair.
Or you have a strap shield. If you have a strap shield, you could totally
that's true. Yeah.
reload with the shield. Technically, while you're reloading, you could be hit and you would take the damage that hit you, but you still could reload.
The gun shield is going to have a hard time with other guns because the shield's a magnet for them. But against me, I would just be
Yeah, same.
I guess I'm not dealing with that raider. That's someone else's job.
Yep.
There's already a strong combo in 2.0, but 3.0 makes it off the charts.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
So the thing that I noticed is that, like, you know, with the new system, it makes it much easier to kind of tailor and scale. So, like, some of the comments I heard were like, "Oh, if we just didn't have this one skirmisher, it'd be a different fight." Or if this one person had a shield, then it changes the dynamic. We don't really have that sort of flexibility with 2.0, except say, give them twice as much body or 8 more pops or whatever it is. So I think that'll make things interesting.
Yeah, everyone. Okay, we need 3/4 of the people to bring out their shields, or this combat. Okay, we need 90% gunners. But
we should have a PC run armory. We should have a line of shields on the wall and a bunch of weapons. That be like, all right, we need 50 shields. Go over there.
Yeah, no, that's like
Get your
legitimate.
Because they don't need to be carded.
Yeah.
Bring all of their reps. Like, I have a bag full of knives.
Yeah, we'll be like, oh, look at all the raiders. Literally all of you pick up.
Of course you do.
No, I have 4 reps because I use 4 weapons in 2.0.
I mean, I feel like, having seen it in action, it's just going to be like every 3.0 character is going to have a gun.
Yeah.
Just all of them.
I think we are going to see more guns for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. This is scenario 3. We're simulating an attack on the road and reinforcements. This is a common scenario for Deadstop. We have 3 Shamblers, 2 Hunters, and a Gorehound. We're going to start with half of the group of PCs. After a set number of waves, or when the PCs go down, then the other group will be able to join them as reinforcements coming to rescue them to simulate an attrition fight with waves of PCs as well.
So, my plan.
We should wait in the shade here, and then, oh god, that's a lot of fucking cover. I'm gonna leave my gun here.
I thought we were the reinforcements.
Oh.
No, we're the reinforcements.
We were walking away because we were reinforcements.
By my voice, alert.
Hey, nice.
Nice, that's really good. I should grab my other shoes. Hey, you guys hear something? Yeah, you know, it sounds like there's some fighting on the other side of town. You know, I hear some moans. Maybe, you know, let's run down. Run down from the cabin, maybe. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I got my injectable and everything, so
It's a good thing they're splitting the group. That seems great.
yeah, you know, but if there's that, I can.
Psionic. I think it's psionic fuel, whatever. I forget. It's not skill like that. Can't remember the call.
Yeah. So many Zed.
Oh, I can't run very fast. Ow. Ow, 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 ow. Ow, 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 ow.
Just turn around and shoot them!
I'm out of bullets!
He ran away to get a melee weapon.
He grabbed a weapon!
From the side of the road. He was like, I found this.
Chuck leaves his hammer everywhere. It's immersive.
It's true, actually. I keep yelling at him about it.
Jeez, I'm gonna steal it one of these days.
I've done that to people. If they're leaving their weapons around too much, I warn them about it, and they don't eventually fix it.
Starting my CBC time?
I pick it up and put it in my bag. I'm like, I'm gonna give it back.
I'm sad that the sharpened gun flavor doesn't exist. 3-0.
Man, these guys are gonna die on this road.
Yeah.
Before we reinforcements. Right.
Well, I'm gonna probably run up and inject X-spray. I have more than one. So. Oh, that's fucking rude.
That's terrible.
That's so fucking rude.
What is this?
Reinforcements can arrive.
Okay. Start crawling together. Hey, I thought he's crawling together.
You're right, man. Seal 25. One second. Hey, drop. Lightning.
What the hell?
Behind you, behind you. Take down. Take it.
Alert! This. We're almost done. Somebody. Alert! Alert! Watch out behind.
Is you okay?
Behind you.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back your fists. Behind you, X.
Blinding!
Oh, avoid. Yeah, you can avoid that from behind.
Yep. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you can stay behind. Help! Help! Behind! Help!
Yeah.
Help!
Oh, shit.
Help!
Look out, we got more right here, too.
Help!
Come on!
How long is blinding last? 5 seconds. Blinding! How long does takedown take? 5 seconds.
Help!
Wrinkle! Wrinkle! Alert! He's not down. Mangled. I'm dying. I'm dying.
Behind you.
Take down. Take down.
Alert.
Waiting. Waiting. Waiting.
Get them off of him and I'll handle it. Stay on his face. He'll be behind you.
Blinding.
Nothing.
Awesome. Yeah.
This was a nighttime scenario with basic shamblers and predatory Zed. The scenario was a small group trapped on the road with reinforcements able to join them. I thought it went really well. What are people's thoughts?
I spent all of my stuff. I spent all of my mind points. I figured it was a good time to do that, so I just mangled.
It was a scary fight. It was the sort of thing where, like, if a small group like that does get caught on the road and they don't get reinforcements fast, they are going to die.
Yeah.
Just from the Zed side, playing a hunter, it felt like I was an actual threat because having enough body to sink some hits and then still be able to go just right up and stealth go up to people and blind them and take the hits from everybody going around and still just wailing was like, it was a feeling of actually being a threat rather than just how they used to be where it's more like outskirts fighting. I could go in there and just take somebody down, which I think adds to a lot of the horror of it.
Running up after people were down, specifically with injectables in hand, were really good because it got people up if you were using a Max Crafts Red Mist. Because right at the beginning of the fight, as the reinforcements came up and hit Xpree with it, and being able to bring them up at that instant speed really helped.
Yeah, because the people that got caught on the road, only one of them was like a big fighter, and that was Xpree. And once he got down, it felt like the rest we just had to slowly pick off, kind of thing. And when reinforcements showed up, you know, having that bolster like made it a more even fight. I felt like.
One of the things I really liked from the situation was when the first 3 PCs went down, the Zed could eat them and start getting their strength back while reinforcements were coming. And for a PC, that would be terrifying because all you can do is crawl. You're just trying to get away, and these Zeds are just chewing. It was quite intense. I mean, from a PC, you know, if I put my shoes in the other foot, or foot in the other shoes, it was definitely would have been a terrifying thing, not knowing reinforcements were coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crawling as you're in bleed out thing is super thematic and really awesome because you're being gnawed on and you're just trying to like grasp nothing and try to futilely crawl away. It's good. It's a really good addition. I like it a lot.
I think this scenario really emphasized that you're not going to be able to just wander around at night by yourself anymore and probably be okay. Even if you're a relatively powerful PC, like if that group of Zed had shown up and it was just my PC with my current stats, I would die. And that's not something that happens right now. There aren't enough roaming threats that are remotely scary enough. Like I can just wander around now, and I can't do that in 3.0 with this sort of stuff. And I like that. I think that's better.
I'm not sure I agree. And the reason is like I got taken down and I had 30 body and 10 armor. I could just sit there and wait for the blind and the takedown to wear off. And then when it wore off, I could get back up. So I certainly took ridiculous numbers of hits, but that's 40 hits. And when I had a shield and everything, as long as I can run, I still would be able to be effective, I think. I certainly think I feel more comfortable in this edition than 2nd edition being by myself. Certainly if you get mangled up, you're in poor repair, and that's going to be the major issue, but especially if you've got alertness, something like that, to be able to see people that are hidden. This seems like the type of system where, you know, scrounging by yourself is easier to do, not more difficult.
I don't know that I agree when it comes to being able to alert stuff. That's going to be such a large expenditure of your mind points at this point. When you're dealing with a group like this, like that's 10 of your mind points just to be able to see all of them if you're doing it by my voice, or 5 if it's an individual.
Thematically, I think that may be why they made the by my voice alert more accessible via the proficient awareness, is because if you are out scrounging alone and you see 3 hunters in stealth coming at you, then you blow the 10 mind to alert them all.
Yeah, and run like hell.
If you have, even if you have the first level, if I'm out scrounging and I see 1, I'm going to go running. So like a 5-point expenditure on something like that would be sufficient to alert there are threats you need to exit.
Well, that's definitely the case, but when, like, from my own perspective, even if I see one thing and decide I need to run, I still think that sort of thing would take me down in this instance. I think that I would die if I was out by myself, even if I wasn't, like...
Especially, it's because the person that I tend to go out and scrounge with is like a 65 build character. And between having cover of night and alert, I feel pretty secure on that character, even though he literally only has 11 body and 15 armor. But I don't feel like I would be nearly as secure going out in the middle of the night with just those 2 skills and like the same body point that I had before, because it's going to cost me a lot more. You know, it's like I'm not going to be able to scrounge if I blow these skills right now. Yeah. Because as a low build character, it's a lot more about not using it for that or using it for scrounge.
Well, foraging is free.
If you're just going around picking up the cards, right now there's no mind point cost,
Okay. Can go later. Well, I thought I saw something about them saying that the foraging cards are going to have levels.
Well, the other thing too is like I'm also going to pick up hunting on that particular character, and that still is going to be 30 minutes alone in the woods, and I believe that one does cost mine expenditure too. So it's like I wouldn't feel as secure going out and hunting then, for example.
So you're going to go out in a group with people who all want to hunt at the same time.
Yeah.
Which, great, smart.
As a Zed, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot more fun as a Zed than I normally do.
Same.
Like, it kind of blew when you were a Zed and you could go down in 2 hits. but going down after 40 hits, I thought it was going to feel tedious. No, instead it really did, like, to reiterate, I forget who said it earlier, but it really did feel like, okay, I can just take these hits. I'm going to try to get in there. Until the point where everybody was doing the bend at the waist and they had their standards and there was no good way for me to get in there. And then it's like, well,
tactics.
I guess I'm screwed.
Shamblers felt like a weird companion to the Predatory Zed, just because felt like we were because Predatory Zed encourage you to stay really mobile. So it felt like as a Shambler, I spent most of my time just like commuting.
You heard them. Just heard them for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, kite.
Make sure that we're not allowed to relax.
I will say, I think that this felt like there was a pretty good mix of. It did really well as a horror thing because there was hope, but it was still deadly. As someone who very recently died to a very similar scenario such as this in 2.0, literally last game, this felt similar, but really, it almost felt better. Because in 2.0, in that kind of scenario, I would have gone down like that. Like, I would have gone down super quick. Here, I still went down, and I probably would have died if we wouldn't have had reinforcements. But I got to fight, and I got to, like, have my little final stand, and it felt, like, thematic for a second. And then I went down, as opposed to in 2.0, where it was just like, I'm gonna fight. No, I'm down. No, it's cool. We're dead. Like, I had that moment where I was surrounded by 3 Zed, and I was just desperately trying to keep them all at bay, but there was nothing I could do to keep them all at bay. So it felt like there was a glimmer of hope, and it was crushed, which is perfect, I think, for this setting.
I like the fact that being outnumbered by even relatively small or basic Zed is dangerous in this system, as opposed to before, where, like I said, I think in the last scenario roundtable thing, before it was like, okay, I'm gonna go handle these like 20 Shamblers by myself and not even care. So,
yeah.
Which is appropriate.
The other thing that I really liked was that, like, with the blindings and takedowns, like before it felt like, well, that's it, you're dead. In this, it's like, okay, ow, this really hurts, this really sucks, but I'm not dead.
Unless they have a gun.
And in a game that's a little bit more focused on attrition, in terms of like resource management of your own body and mind, it's still a penalty because you're taking damage that you otherwise wouldn't be taking if you hadn't been taken down. But it's survivable. It's not a total death sentence.
It really feels like the equivalent of, like, if you get taken down or like blinded, it feels like that 5 mind is like an actual equivalent, not like a must spend.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed and felt in these fights is when you think about like certain movies or TV shows, like where Zed will come up and like you have a bunch of survivors, and the survivors are the ones that were like situationally aware and the ones that are, got really good with guns or learned to train over several episodes or whatever. And even then, like, even though like they may be like perfect with their katana blades or shotguns or whatever, like suddenly a Shambler just like is on top of them and they didn't even know it was there. Like, I feel like that has happened more than a couple of times in these fights, especially with the previous playtest. And that is also kind of like a good theme to feel for this game.
Yeah.
Takedown for the Shambler is really awesome.
Yeah, it's like nobody's immune to, the Zed.
Yeah.
The fights feel like they're going to last a lot longer. This feels like I'm going to be really, really tired after even
I
one
was
fight.
like, struggling.
I just, especially like, this is an open field, but I feel as though like if I were in a terrain, I'd move like on a slight uphill, and then it's me and 3 other guys for 20 minutes.
At 7,800 feet.
Exactly. I'm certainly concerned like in a non-flat battleground area.
Let's just all go to like Paradiso.
Let's
it'll be fine.
That's 7,700.
Which is higher altitude.
Oh, okay.
Just wait
Let's
until-
just all go to Eldorado then.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Let's just
it's
wait.
so flat there.
Let's just wait until all of us are mountain hunters at Downfall.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my god, I'm so
down
excited.
for one else.
In a sense,
gods.
it just feels like you get into a slightly elevated position. Okay, you have 5 guys with guns. You have a couple other guys that are going to just hold off whoever it is, and you're going to stand there as long as they don't have guns. So,
yeah.
I love the big asterisks as long as they don't have guns.
There's gonna be a lot
yeah,
of
as long as they don't have guns.
Is there a scenario that where it's just like where it's like gunslinger standoff or something.
Yeah, enemy strains with guns seems like it'd be a bunch.
I have one that's kind of like it, although it's right now it's also Zed, which would make it hard to be a gunslinger standoff. But
Well, I mean, it sounds like those Dead Stop Dead Eyes could start showing back up again. Terrifying.
any final comments before we shut this down?